The situation is serious. Goma has fallen. And today, the war is at the gates of Bukavu. Just as much as the outcome, it's the manner that stands out. One of the largest cities in our country was taken with a bewildering speed and ease. I would first like to pay tribute to the memory of our soldiers who fell on the field of honor and express all our support for our troops. Although poorly paid and insufficiently supported by the political and military authorities, our children have shown extraordinary courage. Hundreds of them went as far as the ultimate sacrifice. We must never forget them. We also express our solidarity with our fellow citizens, more than 500,000 war-displaced persons, and all the civilians who are victims of this conflict. The fall of Goma. It's the failure of Felix Tshisekedi. He must take responsibility without trying to shift the blame, as he usually does. Time and again, Moïse Katumbi has sounded the alarm on the need to take care of our troops. He denounced the impunity surrounding the embezzlement of funds intended for them and criticized the lack of transparency in the spending contracts related to their equipment. He also condemned the unacceptable presence of mercenaries and genocidal groups alongside our armed forces. He warned against the policy of discrimination, racism, and xenophobia being carried out in the country. All these alerts were met with contempt and belittlement, along with unfounded accusations, all based on the most blatant lies. With the sole aim of getting rid of him, they even attributed to Moïse Katumbi the intention to attack the Republic. The failure of Goma. It's one of arrogance and the stubborn refusal of those in power to face reality. This failure is also the result of a culture based on lies and impunity, the two pillars on which this regime stands. We are well justified in reminding Mr. Tshisekedi. In Geneva, he promised disgrace to those who would denounce their commitment. Ironically, it is now he who is being pursued and caught up by the curse and the fatal fate he cast yesterday on the perjurers. But this failure in Goma mainly stems from a disastrous governance of state affairs marked by immorality, a reversal of values, and corruption. The state institutions, which are supposed to serve the public interest, have been corrupted and diverted from their role and function to serve base personal interests. Every day brings its share of scandals. We learn that a shameless minister is calling on the head of military intelligence to kidnap his mistress. The same head of military intelligence neglects his mission to spend all his time hunting down politicians, to arrest them, to torture them, instead of putting all his energy into gathering intelligence on the enemy. Another minister, once again, has turned to comedy, shamelessly plagiarizing the speeches of great orators like Winston Churchill and President Eisenhower, to inspire our soldiers with great eloquence that he sends hungry and without ammunition into battle. During this time, another one, certainly under the influence of drugs, takes pleasure in handing out death sentences as if they were merit badges. And he boldly announces that Rwanda will soon become the 27th province of Congo. Finally, the failure in Goma is the result of irresponsibility, incompetence, and recklessness at the top of the state. In recent weeks, all Congolese have observed with dismay that whenever our localities were struck by tragedies, it was almost inevitably during cultural trips. Without purpose and without impact, the head of state traveled abroad. A trip accompanied by indecent appearances during celebrations as trivial as sporting events in times of war. While the situation in Sake continued to deteriorate, Felix Tshisekedi had no other need than to show off in Davos, Switzerland. And while Goma was falling, the entire family clan was indulging in frivolities in South Africa. Such an attitude is a blatant expression of contempt for those who, in the shadows, are fighting not only for their survival, but to ensure the survival of the territorial integrity of the Democratic Republic of Congo. After a long silence, probably due to the distress caused by the fall of Goma, the speech of the President of the Republic created a deep discomfort. These inconsistencies, as provocative as they are indecent, reveal not only a break with reality, but also a deep misunderstanding and ignorance, responsibilities that fall on any true leader. How can we call for national unity while engaging in a game of division, fracturing our nation with tribalism, clanism, nepotism, and ostracism? Where are the concrete actions that should promote calm, reconciliation, and national unity? How can we pay tribute to our troops? Unfortunate soldiers barely paid $100, and even then, if their salary decides to show up, while mercenaries are being recruited for $10,000 a month, and by allowing his collaborators to enrich themselves by making war their business. How to talk to our fellow citizens about financial efforts without explaining to them where the billions of American dollars spent on the war have gone, while our children have been abandoned in the hills of Kivu, without regulation clothing, without boots, and without rations. How can we demand that our youth sacrifice themselves and enlist in a devastated army? Since 2019, and a deceptive promise of improvement, nothing has been done. How dare one call for respect for the principles of law from the podium of the United Nations while trampling on those very principles in our Congo, suppressing the opposition brutally, disregarding the Constitution, threatening activists and silencing truth-seeking journalists? How can we ask for international solidarity on the one hand and set fire to the embassies of our partners in Kinshasa? On the other hand, let's be clear. I say without hesitation, I firmly condemn Rwanda and all foreign powers fighting on our soil. The guns must fall silent. The blood of Congolese people has flowed enough. No centimeter of the territory of the Democratic Republic of the Congo should be ceded. Our country must remain one and indivisible. Bunagana, it's Congo. Goma, it's Congo. Bukavu, it's Congo. However, it's crucial to understand that the conflict in the east of our country is not just a simple confrontation between our country and other nations. This aspect only represents half of the problem. The other half lies in the internal conflict among Congolese. One of Felix Tshisekedi's biggest mistakes has been the institutionalization of tribalism, discrimination, and exclusion. When appointments within the administration, the judiciary, and the military predominantly favor one family, one clan, another part, and a single tribe, to the detriment of competence and national diversity, the feeling of injustice can only grow. When expressing an opinion becomes a pretext for arrest and imprisonment, our ability to live together only regresses. When corruption infects all institutions, even justice itself, the state succumbs to make way for the mafia and the triads. We find ourselves today at a crucial crossroads for the future of our country. As Felix Tshisekedi gets bogged down in his logic of war, resorting to mercenaries and the FDLR, he stubbornly insists on changing the Constitution solely to maintain power, and to continue, with excessive greed, the trap of our country. That he silences the free press, and that he even cuts the signal of international channels to silence any critical voice that he reinstates the death penalty to impose a reign of terror, that he stops his opponents, or they condemn them to exile, using street pressure against Western powers, without understanding the serious consequences that have led to looting, acts of vandalism, and fires. And they refuse to negotiate both, with armed and peaceful oppositions. They destroy any possibility of finding a constructive solution to the crisis. Disconnected from reality. Felix Tshisekedi is an arsonist, surrounded by flames. He undermines the peace processes initiated in Luanda and Nairobi. He makes the prospects for reconciliation and peace feel a little more distant every day. By stubbornly sticking to this path, he is relentlessly driving the country towards its destruction, like Sudan or Haiti. Unable to recognize his mistakes, he is no longer part of the solution. He has become the problem himself and must unequivocally step aside to make way for a true dynamic of change. By being critical for our nation, it is essential to face reality. With courage and determination, we will continue our fight for a nation built on unity, justice, and dignity for all Congolese.